Good evening, and welcome to episode 7 of Spooky Town Tales. It is I, your host Morgana, back again to share with you some very creepy stories this evening, and joining me in the spooky seats is you-know-who, Jimmy Bug.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome back again. This is attempt number 2 to record this week, as last night had everything lined everything up, had the episode written, and came into the room and someone was fast asleep.
That was me.
You doing okay, Granddad?
I'm doing all right now, after my nap.
I've made him a coffee to get him through. Need I remind you, it's 6:30 at the moment. 6:30 p.m. He's getting sleepy, so we better get a move on.
Quick! I'm fading, getting dozy.
Oh no! Yes. So hopefully tonight he'll stay awake through the episode. If he doesn't, I'll push through. I'll soldier on. I can do it.
I can do it.
You can do it.
I can do this.
You're capable. Now tonight's episode I have called Just Plain Spooky, because some of the stories are very, very scary and odd. And there are some local stories, but I've got chucked a couple in there that I found that were just too cool not to share. Just too creepy. So buckle up, get comfortable, and prepare to be spooked. Now, before I start on the stories this evening, Jimmy, I just thought I'd let you know that someone got in touch with me and has confirmed that their partner suffers from streetlight interference phenomena.
It's real.
It's real. So someone else out there locally, in the state at least,
Jeez.
this is Barb's partner. So totally wrapped that he's experienced it too.
You two have been a nightmare on the street.
We've been a nightmare on a spooky street. Don't take us out for night walks. So there you go. Someone else has it.
There you go.
Thank you for easing my solitude in my confined little glass box. I appreciate it. So yes, I had feedback from that.
There you go.
And just wanted to tell you all about, I saw a trailer for the new Guillermo del Toro movie, and it looks so scary.
Is that the one you showed me?
Yeah.
Yeah. That looks freaking terrifying.
Really, really scary. Like, think of all the scariest urban legends and scary stories you've heard.
Yeah.
He's put all of them in there. It's like, what else can we put in? What else could scare the crap out of people? It's called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It's the name of it.
If you want to shit your pants.
If you want to shit your pants, you want to not sleep for a century, you want to age 30 years in a week.
There's the solution.
Here's your solution. So yeah, I think it's coming out this year. It might already be out. But anyway, I missed it somehow, and then I saw it online, a little thing for it, and I watched it, and I was like, that's scary even for me. And I can handle scary, but...
Considering you scare yourself to relax.
yeah, weirdo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I just thought I'd let you know, if you're listening to this, you like scary stuff, you like to be spooked, so check that one out. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It's directed by Guillermo del Toro, who's really good. I believe he directed Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Bloody, that was terrifying. The
I've
monster
never
with
seen
the eyes in the hands.
Yeah.
I'll have to show it to you. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Hard pass. Okay, so let's get started on some stories.
Go.
Our first story comes from a Donnybrook local, or Argyle, sorry. This story happened in Mount Helena in the 1990s. So Mount Helena is, or Helena, however you say it, is in the hills in Perth.
Yeah.
So it's up near Mundaring kind of area. I was about 3 or 4 years old when paranormal things started to happen to me when we moved into an old house in Mount Helena. It was 90 years old when we moved into it. The building still had an old wash house out the back with a toilet and laundry. My parents moved into the first bedroom near the kitchen, and my brother and I were put into 2 small bedrooms, the furthest from them down the hall. I still remember telling my mum and dad, as soon as we moved into the house, that there was a bad man in their bedroom, but they dismissed it because they didn't want me to be scared in our new home. I find it funny, I'm just going to point this out, that she's the same age as us, and my childhood house growing up, we were as far away from the parents as we could be, with like all the living areas in the middle, and then they were at the very front of the house.
As were we, come to think of it. It was just...
Whereas like our generation, I don't know if maybe we're weird, but Jimmy and I...
Yes, we're weird.
The girls' bedroom, we share a wall with them so we can hear them, because you want to be able to hear if they're okay in the night. I don't know how it works.
It makes sense to me, to be as close as you can to be able to take care of them and comfort them when there's spooky things.
Yeah, yes, like, for example, as she said, she walked into the house and she told her mum and dad that there was sensed a bad man in the first room.
Yeah.
So she was already feeling frightened by this place. So they dismissed it because they didn't want her to be scared. And a few weeks later, my dad started pulling up the carpet in the lounge and kitchen. Then they started having experiences in their bedroom.
Whoa.
Mostly my dad. One morning, he woke up to see a big black shadow holding him down in the bed. As soon as the light from the window hit it, it disappeared. It kept happening every morning for a few days until it happened to my mum. Then they moved into the smaller room down the hall and it stopped. She's like, nope.
Nope, not doing this.
So I don't know if he'd not told her and then...
Yeah. Interesting.
I'll have to find out whether he'd kept, well, as I say, keep mum about it and not told her, and then obviously she's experienced it and gone, we're not having that.
Yeah.
But I would not go into that room as a kid. My parents turned it into a guest room where...
Best solution yet.
And then they had friends come to stay with their kids. The next morning, when they got up, they noticed that they had left in the night.
Whoa.
So this family staying in the room had just up and left in the middle of the night. That morning, they ended up coming over. So the people that had slept over. So they came over, but they didn't want to say why they'd left without saying anything. So they didn't want to say why. So her mum took the friend aside and told them what had happened. Oh, hang on.
The friend's mum.
Sorry, yes. My mum took her friend aside and told them what had happened to them, as it used to be their room, and asked if that's what had happened to them.
Yeah.
She said, yes, the same thing happened to them at 3 a.m.
Whoa. That's a long wait till the sun comes up.
It's a long wait. So, it's happened to the dad.
Yeah. The mum.
On several mornings.
And
it's happened to the mum, and then it's happened to an entire family have witnessed it. Same room, same exact experience, all not telling each other what's happened. So her mum was very relieved that her and the dad weren't crazy, because, okay, it's happened to them too. And we didn't tell them, you wouldn't tell them. Here's the guest room.
Guess what happens?
It comes with a beautiful, soft chenille throw rug, fluffy pillows, and a demonic man who'll hold you down in bed.
You literally can't get out of.
I remember my mum told me as a teenager she looked up the history and reckoned that an old man and child had died while living on the property. and ever since then she'd believed that her daughter has abilities. So since then, they believed her when she said there's someone there.
Yeah. Yep.
So before that, they were like, oh, she's just being a kid.
Yeah.
So this listener has lots of stories. So this is the first of many. I'm a bit excited to hear because she's quite in tune.
That's quite a ripper.
Yeah. So her dad had said when the shadow was holding him down, he also found it hard to breathe. And to this day, he can't explain what had happened. And he's a scientist working in the mining industry. So he's very analytical and skeptical. And he doesn't think it was sleep paralysis as he could move and talk. But it was hard to do so, but he had the ability to. So it wasn't like he couldn't get the words out. He could, but it was a lot of effort. So whatever this thing was draining him of energy, I would say.
Yeah.
I remember bringing it up about 6 months ago, and he agreed something had happened that he can't explain, and for him, that's very hard to acknowledge. So even to this day, he says, yes, it happened. Like it's...
But I still can't explain it.
I can't explain it, so I'm not happy about it.
Yeah. Interesting though, like, because you were saying too with sleep paralysis, I suppose there could be a grey area where you're more awake than not, but
for four
so
multiple
many people
in the same room, in the room that the little girls sense that there's someone and said there's a bad man in there. And then, now this ties into what we discussed a few episodes ago about the types of hauntings. And if something traumatic occurs, there's energy left over from it.
Yeah.
So they say that it absorbs into the house. Or also, if you're in a house and there's a lot of negative things going on, like domestic abuse, energy can accumulate. Negative energy can accumulate and just reside there.
Yeah.
So I think obviously this particular room, something horrid's happened in that room.
Yeah.
And there's some negative stuff there. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Very cool story. Thank you, Alexandra. That was awesome.
That was a good one.
And I'm looking forward to hearing some more of your stories in the coming weeks. So yes, so that pretty creepy. I mean, how would you explain that to your friends? Oh, yeah, we had that happen too, but we chucked you in there and we moved rooms.
We didn't like the idea of it, so we've gone elsewhere.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah. Well, you're not our best friends.
Yeah.
We weren't really looking forward to your visit. We didn't want you coming back.
Not that closer, buddies.
Yeah, so cool story. Now, I'm going to tell you a story now that I've been saving. That happened when I was travelling. So this didn't occur in Western Australia or Australia. It occurred when I was 14 and was travelling the UK with the family.
Yeah.
So this was my first time overseas. And we'd been travelling all over England and we made our way into Wales.
Right.
And we had got lost a little bit on the way. So we're in Snowdonia in Wales, which is up in the hilly mountains. So we were making our way up to Snowdonia, like national parky kind of area.
Yep.
Mount Snowdon is where we were. So it was at like the base of Mount Snowdon in this little town.
Yep.
No idea where I was at the time because we'd just been driving. And I was 14, and, just in the back of the car going, ugh, listening for the 46th time on the radio, Coldplay's Yellow. Like, seriously, how many times can they play this friggin' song? So we'd finally, we're coming into where we're hoping we're nearly there. And this really weird thing happens, which I will also reference later in the episode. But in the UK, because of the climate and the environment and where it is, you get this weird fog just comes in, like thick and fast.
Yeah, I've heard of this before, probably from you, but
it's really creepy, but it's perfectly explainable.
Yeah.
But it did, like we were driving and then all of a sudden we watched it creep through this thick fog.
So cool.
Now to make it even scarier, we're heading up like mountains.
Yep.
And as you experienced with me when we took the girls to the snow,
yeah,
there's no edging, so that it's just a sharp drop.
Yep.
So fog, okay, thick fog.
Yep.
So we can't actually see where the edge is.
Yeah.
Dad's driving with a car full of fed up jerks. Basically, we're all being jerks by this stage. I'm not ashamed to admit it. And then so we were all convinced we're going to die.
Yeah.
Like, even Dad. We're all just like, oh my God, because the roads are so narrow and
Yeah.
we're winding up this rocky, literally looking down, you can see just death.
Yeah.
It's just jagged mountain edges. And we survived it. We managed to get over this creepy, scary mountainous road into this town.
Yeah.
So we're just like, oh my God, it's a town. There's a hotel, yes. So we couldn't get it booking anywhere.
Yeah.
There was one last place. There's obviously a reason why.
Because there's no one else there.
No one else will stay there, and you'll hear why. So we pull up, and Mum walks in and checks, I think it was the third or fourth one, she'd gone in and asked if there were rooms, and because there were 6 of us,
Yeah.
it was tricky. They said, yes, we've got space. And Mum's like, okay, weird.
Why so eager?
Everywhere else is booked up. Not only that, but they had 3 separate rooms. So 2 in one, 2 in one, 2 in the other. So it's a lot of rooms free. They gave Mum and Dad one room, gave them the keys. They gave Callum and Eden another room. And then when they gave me and my sister a room, they kind of smirked and giggled. So Amber and I, they're like, here you go. Have a good night. Like, really sus.
Whoa.
Really sus. So by this stage, we're all knackered. We're ready for bed. So we go upstairs to our rooms. The second I open the door, I'm like, oh, just gross.
Yeah.
And it's decorated with, there's got the little lamp on one side of the bed. So there's only one lamp in the room. And there was windows either side. It was sort of like a bit that popped out of the building. Very old building.
Yeah.
So there was windows either side. It was a funny, pokey sort of section of the building. And we're on, the second floor.
Okay.
So this makes the story even creepier. We're on a second floor. There's no landing or veranda outside. There's no deck.
Yep.
Nothing. So we ended up hopping into bed, and we're both creeped out, and I can see Amber's creeped out and not comfortable because she's experienced things before, so she knows that feeling, and I've got the feeling, she's got the feeling. And we're sitting there, and you can hear, so we're trying to get used to the noises because we are up in the mountains, so there's funny winds.
Oh, of course.
We're trying to get used to the noises and the creaks and the cracks of the building and work out what's a crack and what's not, and
Yeah.
And so as we're laying there, and I think one of us had said, "What was that noise?" And then the lamp went out.
Okay.
So we're like neither of us touched it.
Yeah.
So we just very carefully reached over and turned it back on, and then looked at each other. I said, "That was weird." And Am's like, "Yeah, it was a bit weird," and then went off again. And so we're both like, it's just an old hotel. We just kept saying, because we both felt weird already. Turned it back on. And they're like, Am's like, I need to go to the toilet. And the toilet wasn't in our room. You had to go out on the landing into another bathroom.
Yeah.
So they'd have to be away from you with the door shut. So if she was going to the toilet, I'd be stuck in the room by myself.
Yeah.
So she goes to the toilet. And I'm looking at the lamp going, oh, God, because it's the only light in the room. I'm sitting there and I'm like, in the bed, creeped out as buggery. And then, I can still remember it. I'm like, oh, and I hear voices, mumbling, And in Wales, if you're a tourist, they'll speak Welsh. They'll be speaking English, but as soon as they hear you're a tourist, I'm not generalising, sorry, I shouldn't generalise. In this particular town, we'd walked into a deli. They were speaking English. When they saw us, they switched to Welsh and then wouldn't speak to us. So I was already feeling unwelcome.
Yeah.
So I can hear this Welsh whispering. And I'm going, it must be outside. And I'm like, you're on the second floor, but it sounds like it's right outside the window. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then, bing, lamp goes out. And it's on her side of the bed. So I have to
get across,
reach over. And the second I go to touch it, I feel like there's a face right, in the dark where you feel there's someone right next to me. So I'm like, do I turn it on? I'm going to see something. So I closed my eyes, turned it on, and then moved back over to the bed. And then as soon as I literally turned it on and moved my hand, went off again. And I was like, ah! So I jumped out of the bed, ran to the door, and just opened the door and sat in the doorway with it open. So the light
was coming in.
Yeah. And I waited for Amber there. And so then she finally came back. And I was just like... She said, what are you doing? I'm like, I can't be in there by myself. And she's like, I was thinking the same thing. We hopped back into bed. Yeah. Lie down. lamp goes out again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Amber, what the hell? And we had convinced ourselves it was a dodgy lamp. We were spooked.
Yeah.
But then she heard the mumbling.
Mm-hmm.
And then she felt someone standing like right next to her because we couldn't keep the lamp on. No matter what we did. Every time we turned it on, something was turning it off.
Yeah.
And then, still remember, felt the blankets being pulled because we were like trying to doze off, just pretend it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And I felt my blankets like being dragged and pulled down my body. I'm like, oh my God. We got no sleep that night.
As you would.
So, and this, it went on. So I'm talking the blankets, the lamp, the curtains would move like someone was behind them. That happened a few times. And it was just, it felt all night like someone was standing over us,
ominous,
watching us. But it was the conversation in Welsh that got me the most because as soon as we felt this looming over the top of us, we could hear whispering. We could hear this in Welsh. If you've heard Welsh, imagine it being whispered in the dark. So this is not where the story ends. I'm pretty sure we got up and we just sat in the hallway till morning. Yeah, we did. We got up, we're just like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Because we knew, we're like, this is not normal.
Yeah.
And which we even, it was so severe, we're like, someone's in the room, they're pranking us because of the weird body language from the woman at the desk.
Yeah, of course.
And so we ended up, and from memory, we sat in the little section outside the room.
Yeah.
Until morning, because by this stage it was pretty early in the morning.
Yeah.
And then we went downstairs, and as we walk into it was a bed and breakfast, so as we went into the little dining room, it was off to the right. We passed this man who was like right in the corner, so he'd have to walk around a table past where the family were, because they were already downstairs.
Yeah.
And then go out to leave. He'd have to pass us to leave.
Yeah.
So as we walk in, he goes, "How'd you sleep, girls?" And we just went, like, yeah, good, like, whatever. Sat down at the table, and then we, like, looked over, and there was no one sitting there. Like, everyone saw this. Everyone had seen, like, I was like, they're like, who are you talking to? "How'd you sleep, girls?" And there was no one there. So we looked straight at him.
Yep.
And then being creeped out, like, wow, what the hell's going on? Because we're thinking, is that guy the one that was doing it?
Yeah, as you would.
Have they rigged the room to scare people? And then as we looked back, because I was like, because I was really creeped out. Like, what a creep. Was he in a room under the bed or something? And then, like, yeah, we looked back and there was no one there. And Mum had said she'd seen him as well.
Oh, dear.
So that's my experience. But that was the only time I've been to Wales. We were there for that one night.
And never again.
I've never been back. I want to go back because I'm sure Wales is lovely. But as for wherever it was, Snowdonia, Mount Snowdon or whatever, I don't think I'll go and stay there again.
We should look it up and see if there is anything else there.
I'm going to have to look up that bed and breakfast because I know it sounds ridiculous, and we spent all night trying to rationalise what was happening. Like, it was so vivid, and like we were literally like, the room's rigged.
Yep.
Someone's pranking us.
Yep. Someone's having a great old time.
So maybe they have. Maybe the room is rigged.
Who knows?
Because maybe they don't like tourists. Who knows? Maybe they just don't like my face. Anyway, on to weird legends as we're in that neck of the woods.
Okay.
I was reading a book the other day that I borrowed from my pal, Will. And in the middle of the book is this legend called The Legend of the Hairy Hands. It's just creepy already, isn't it? Hairy hands. Is that what you want to be thinking about? The Legend of Jimmy's Hands.
They're not that hairy.
No, they're not too bad. I'm just being a smartass. So I'm going to read you this legend now, just to...
Although I do have hair on my very front knuckles, which probably isn't great.
he's got to trim them to trim his cuticles.
Yeah.
They grow over the nail. No.
Waxing cuticles.
All right, so this is in Dartmoor, Devon.
Right.
So it's near Wales, sort of. It's southern England-ish. Very pretty. I love Devon.
Yep.
But I'm going to make sure I don't go to this area of Devon next time I go. So this legend apparently had existed for a long time.
Right.
But one of the most vivid experiences, most recent experiences, was a woman called Florence Warwick. And she'd never heard of the legend. She was a tourist to Devon. And she was driving in her car. She was driving from Post Bridge to Two Bridges. So anyone who's from that area, which I know there's a fair few people who live in the south. I think, what was it, 60% of Donnybrook's residents are from the UK?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
About that.
So there's a fair few British people living in Donnybrook and in other... Bridgetown was another one.
Yeah, no doubt down this way.
So
in the stacks.
a fair few of you would probably know this area. So she was driving from Post Bridge to Two Bridges. She'd been on a tour, and then her car began to judder.
Oh.
So being a woman and being sensible, she pulled over and got the manual out
Right.
to just see, what does this mean? So she's sitting in the car. She was reading in the fading light, and all of a sudden she got this cold, like the temperature dropped dramatically, which is so trademark in hauntings.
Yep.
You get this sudden drop in temperature, you get shivery, you get an uneasy feeling. She felt like there were eyes on her. So the sun's already going down,
Yeah.
or it's already semi-dark, and she can feel something's watching her. So she's still like facing the manual, and then she looks up at the windscreen, and she said she saw this huge pair of hairy hands pushing against the windscreen, massive,
Really?
big hands, pushing against, like pressed up against the windscreen. She tried to scream, but nothing came out. She was frozen, like what the hell, staring at these massive, hairy hands. Then she watched, absolutely terrified, as the disembodied hands that are said to have haunted the desolate place for over 60 years began to crawl across the windscreen.
What? Just hand.
Just hairy hands.
Whoa.
And this is a quote from her. It was horrible. They were just inches away. After what seemed like forever, I heard myself cry out, and then the hands vanished. So she's like,
Yeah.
you know that?
Yeah.
When you're terrified, like, come to me, scream.
Yeah.
She finally mustered up a scream, and then it
Wow.
just vanished. She was so shaken she hadn't noticed she'd been trying to start the car, and it had already started. So the car's
So
running.
She's kicking the start of
Yeah, so she's like, so the car's going, so she just books it out of there.
Whoa.
By the time she got back to, is it Torbay? So by the time she gets back there, so it was about 20 miles drive,
Yeah.
she where she was staying with some friends, she'd convinced herself she'd imagined it. She's like, it can't be real, I've imagined it. I'm just freaked out. I don't know why I've seen this. Why would I see this? This makes no sense.
Yeah.
So she got back to her friend's house and she just said, look, you're going to think I'm crazy, because she's freaked out. She's like, I don't know what happened. Did I imagine it? And then her friends say, oh, no, that happens on that stretch of road. It's been happening for 60 plus years. People have, it's a regular thing. Now, this is just how regular it is. It began in the 1920s. Pony traps were overturned. A cyclist felt something grab his handlebars and then wrenched them from his hands, slamming him into a stone wall.
Whoa.
Like felt the hands on his hands and then pulled the handlebars. And with huge amount of force.
Yeah.
Horses would bolt on the road, and like you couldn't take a horse down there.
Jeez.
They would bolt and freak out. A doctor was travelling on his motorbike with his two kiddies in the sidecar down that road. They were nearly killed because the engine was ripped. No one could explain it. The police, no one could explain how the engine was ripped from the motorcycle.
What?
Yep. So they crashed. There's no when they assessed the scene, it was like, how the hell has this happened?
That's pretty.
So
insane.
these sorts of accidents were happening all the time. No explanation. An army officer reported, this one's pretty creepy, an enormous pair of hands covered his own with long, dark hairs and basically grabbed the wheel and it twisted him off the road.
Whoa.
An army officer. So he'd actually seen the hands on top of his own hands and then pushed his off. And
Whoa.
so this is another one. So by 1921, it got too much. There were too many accidents. Like, it was a regular thing.
Yeah.
And the police were just like,
Enough.
what the hell's going on? So the newspaper sent investigators, and authorities had the camber of the road altered. Like, it was this bad. They're like, it must be the road.
Yeah.
We can't think of anything else. It's not a pair of hands. So not long after that, so this is after the road's been, the camber's been adjusted, a young couple were visiting the area who weren't aware of the legend of the hands.
Right.
And thought, it's getting late. A heavy fog came in, just like the one we had in Snowdonia. It is scary. It's so thick and your visibility's gone.
Yeah.
So that's why we thought we were going to die on the mountain, which... Go on it on. I don't know why I thought of that song. Anyway, so this is my brain. I just went somewhere else for a minute there. So the heavy fog had come in where they were, and as they were driving towards Plymouth, so they decided, we'll pull over in the rest bay. We'll sleep here the night.
Yep.
So they made their dinner, went to bed. They'd only been asleep for a short while when the woman woke up to a scratching sound outside the caravan. Very loud, distinct scratching.
Mm.
She thought it was a dog and thought, oh no, there's a lost dog.
Yeah.
And so she was getting up to go and let the dog in or just check it was okay. But all of a sudden, she started feeling a horrible eeriness and everything went cold, and she looked over at the husband's bunk, and just above the husband's bunk's a window.
Oh, no.
And there, slowly creeping over the window, over the glass, above her sleeping husband, was a giant pair of what, Jimmy?
No freaking way.
Hairy hands.
My God.
Pressed against the glass, creeping along above where her husband was asleep. She was so stunned at this gruesome sight, she couldn't move. She just stared at him.
Yeah.
So she just sat there frozen. And she thought, all I can do is make the sign of the cross. So she started sort of doing, Hail Mary, full of grace, whatever it is. I'm not a Catholic. She's making the sign of the cross and vanished.
Wow.
So basically, it was so common. It became this, like, for youths, it became a joke, and they thought, right, we're going to prank people. We're gonna, there was a bunch of hoaxes then happened after this.
Yeah.
After it kicked up again with this caravanning couple. So it got so common, the police refused to investigate any of the reports. There were that many reports that we're not doing it.
Wow.
Because they couldn't differentiate. They were like, well, no, you're lying. So they just stopped reporting on it and going and checking on it. But in 1960, there was a fatal crash that was at the hands again.
Yeah.
There was no other explanation for it. So he'd been driving from Plymouth to, I'm not quite sure, I've written that really badly, so I'm not going to even say it. They found him underneath the car's wreckage.
Okay.
There was no other car involved. There was no mechanical faults. There was no sign of, like, any reason why the car would have overturned, but they found the car, flipped, and he was underneath it.
Yeah.
It's never been solved.
Yeah.
There's just no explanation. Okay, now, walkers have also experienced strange things. Imagine being on foot. There's no glass between you and the hairy hands. So walkers have just experienced horrible sensations. There was one man who said he got, like, rooted in the ground. He couldn't move.
Yeah.
Like something grabbed him, like he couldn't move. And then when he came to, he just bolted back to town. He hadn't heard of the story. And then when he got to town, he told someone, they're like, you weren't walking down that road. He said, you haven't heard about the hairy hands? So the possible reason as to why this is happening is that they did find a Bronze Age village had once stood along Dartmoor Road.
Okay.
Don't go down Dartmoor Road.
Apparently. Jesus Christ.
So there you go, the hairy hands. Now this got me hunting. I go on hunts.
Mm-hmm.
Story hunts.
Yes.
I'm a story hunter. It'll be the new Vin Diesel film. You wait. The story hunter. I'm Vin Diesel. I like to hunt stories. Better do a good job of me, Vin. Anyway. Got very carried away again. So I had to find out if there are any more legends about hands. I was so freaked out. I'm like, my God.
Yeah.
And we have our own in Australia.
Oh no.
We've got our own hand legend.
Oh no.
In Goodna Cemetery in Brisbane, Queensland.
Well, that's a fair way away. That's all right.
Yeah, don't worry. It's not too close. So many people claim that the cemetery is haunted, which isn't abnormal. It's like, yeah, well, most people say cemeteries are haunted.
Yeah.
But it's not haunted by ghosts. It's haunted by unforeseen forces, a pair of invisible hands to be exact.
Oh.
So,
Invisible version.
Invisible version, but you can distinctly feel the fingers and the thumb.
Oh.
And after dark, people who venture into the Goodna Cemetery said they felt the invisible hands,
Yeah.
scratching them and punching them.
Oof. That's a bit rough.
Yeah, like these hands punch you. So...
Can't even see where they're coming
Can't
from.
even see. It's not a fair fight.
Not even close.
Casper, you dirty bastard. Fight like a man. Show yourself. So sometimes the punches are so hard that they can feel the rage behind it, like real hard punches.
Yeah.
What a jerk.
That's not cool.
So that's our very own little one in Goodna Cemetery, Brisbane, Queensland. You want to start a fight?
Yeah.
If you like ghost fights,
Yeah.
go to Goodna Cemetery.
The unwinnable fight.
Yeah. Go, here are you, Spectre scum. Come on, I'll take you in the next Vin Diesel film.
Oh, another one.
Ghost fight.
2 in 1.
Actually, that might be a Dwayne Johnson one.
Definitely.
He's never fit in with the crowd. He's as spooky as heck. He likes to fight ghosts.
Invisible ghost.
Yep, so there you go. There's another cool one. Now, Jimmy, on cool stories, this one isn't paranormal, but
Oh, from the one I was telling you before.
Jimmy has told me the coolest story.
It's not cool. It's just.
It's weird.
It's just weird. It's
But
just
that's why
stupid.
it's cool.
But it's funny because I used to do work for Telstra, and Telstra have a lot of remote huts which are out in the middle of nowhere. This wasn't me, this story, but one of the guys you went to tech with, Fridgie School, he was telling me that he got a call out when he used to work for Telstra, and it took him to the back of Pinjarra area up in the woods, and the coordinates that they gave him that he put into his GPS just took him down some roads that got smaller and smaller and then a lot smaller, which kind of got him a bit freaked out because it was in the middle of the night. It wasn't a...
You've experienced that with call-outs.
With call-outs, yeah. They do take you down some fairly goat track.
And sometimes you get fired at by farmers with guns.
I got threatened once, but that was a small situation. But with the other guy's story, he ended up getting down quite a small little goat track, and then in the middle of the night, his headlights came upon these 2 massive dogs, which to him looked like wolves, which as he got closer, he was stoked because they were just huskies, but
in the middle
in the middle of nowhere, like
on a dirt track.
On a dirt track.
Giant, big husky dogs.
Yeah, and
strolling
just
in the night.
Strolling down the road. So he
so weird.
Got past them and went, that's just odd. Let's just cross it off as being odd.
Yeah.
And then came around the next corner and managed to find a reasonably small man, completely dressed in golden robes, as you would see a monk.
A monk.
Yep. And couldn't explain
Middle
that
of the
one.
night.
Middle of the night.
Middle of nowhere.
And so he kind of got to the point where he's going, I don't know if I should keep going.
This is a scene
it's
out
getting
of
a bit weird.
An Exorcist film.
Anyway, he ended up seeing the red light from the Telstra Tower's beacon, so he thought, look, I'll get it done. I'll just bite the bullet, accept it as being weird, and just go there. He rocked up to the front gate, opened the front gate, and just as he's walking back to his car, he had 3 gunshots ring out and decided that was the end of the night. He went, that's enough.
That's it. 3 strikes, you're out.
I am done.
Yep.
I'm going home.
Look, I pushed through with the giant wolf dogs. I nearly left with the monks, but I draw the line at being shot at.
Being shot at, that's enough.
Holy crap.
Not too scary story. He actually found out the next day.
There's a monastery
There's
near
a
there.
monastery near there. Huskies.
I don't know.
Possibly with the monk. I don't know.
Maybe the monk was walking the huskies.
More than likely.
Maybe he was shooting bunnies while he was at it.
It turns out they're well renowned for wild pigs out there, so that's more than likely what the gunshots were.
Do you think no, this would be way more badass. Do you think the monk's gold robes are his hunting robes?
You would hope so.
And he's like out hunting with his
too
wolves, and he's like, I'll wound it, and then you guys finish it off.
Or he's such a crack shot that he doesn't wear camo.
Yeah, he just wears his gold robes.
Right.
I have the power of God with me. That's the next Vin Diesel film.
Okay, enough of the movies.
I'm sorry.
3 strikes and you're out.
I know, that's my 3rd strike. Knocked it out of the park.
Get out of here.
All right, let's get serious now. Right. On with another spooky story.
Yeah.
This one comes from a Donnybrook resident who's another one like me. She's an ex-city girl, so she's grew up in Perth. So this occurred while she was living in Perth. Growing up, Kelly and her family always had ghosts.
Right.
It was commonplace in their household, and it was something the whole family just accepted. They were used to it. One household, however, their little guest became a little bit of a nuisance. The family members had all seen a little boy on several different occasions wandering around the house. It was a regular occurrence. However, the activity escalated. In the evenings, Kelly's mum started to experience something in her bedroom. She would feel someone pulling her blankets off while she was laying in bed. This happened on several occasions. I know what that's like.
Scary is what it is.
It's awful. The family also would experience the phenomena in the shower room. Even if no one had used the bathroom, something would somehow steam up the shower room, so the mirrors, everything would be steamed. No one would have been in there using hot water. They could never find the source or an explanation. One evening, Kelly had her boyfriend over, now husband. He was staying the night, and the couple were in the lounge watching a movie. Kelly had fallen asleep and woke up to a very alarmed Adam telling her, "Your brother is sleepwalking." Kelly looked up, realising it wasn't her brother, and told Adam, very casually, "Oh, that's just our ghost." So Adam jumps up, upright in shock, like, "What?" And he just literally said, "What the fuck?" Then they both watched as the little boy disappeared straight into the television. So he just walked through it and disappeared.
Oh.
Yeah. Adam didn't sleep for a week after that. That was it. They actually ended up, because it was getting, like, especially with the mum with the sheets,
Yeah.
they got a ghost removal. I just love that. Ghost removal.
It's not rubbish removal.
No. So the ghost removal, so like a shaman or something came and cleansed the house because it was becoming a nuisance. The medium said that he'd been waiting for his family and didn't know he'd passed.
Right.
So that was what they'd found out the little boy was about. So in another house, this is before her and her now husband had their kids, they had a bathroom that steamed up
Whoa.
as an adult. so they could never explain that because they were obviously in the main bedroom with an ensuite. They used that bathroom. They never used the main bathroom, but that would steam up as well. So I can't help but wonder if it's followed her.
That's pretty weird.
Yeah, because it was the same thing as what happened in the childhood house.
Totally
Why is the
weird.
bathroom steaming up? No one uses the main bathroom. It's just the two of them living in that house. They both used the ensuite. They never used the main, and the main one would steam up. Like you'd open the door, it would be full of steam.
That's so weird.
Super weird. Bathroom creep.
Yeah,
Bathroom creep. On another occasion, Kelly and her family were driving home and she saw a man sitting on the bonnet of the car. Her mum freaked out and slowed right down. There was a bad accident later down that road. Kelly believes whoever appeared on the bonnet was there to protect them.
Oh.
Yeah. There you go. That's a pretty
crazy.
cool one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. We, on that note of things showing up to help or protect, I actually got Jimmy to watch. This is like, Jimmy actually watched one of my creepy shows with me on the weekend.
Yeah.
Paranormal 911.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one if you like.
That is a good one.
It's a really good one because it's first responders telling their stories of paranormal things that have happened. And I think if you like this podcast, you like that show.
Yeah,
There's a
that is
plug
good.
for you, Paranormal 911. Some of them are a bit lame, but this one's really good.
Yeah.
But there was an episode on that we watched where they got a 911 call from a man saying, my wife's in trouble.
Yeah.
Very minimal, apparently it was very minimal words. He just said, my wife needs you, come now, something like that. And when the paramedics got there and walked in the room, they saw the husband in the lounge sitting on the chair and they thought, why isn't he in with the woman that needs help?
Yeah.
And they went to
Didn't say anything much.
They didn't. He
like-
said nothing to them. He
That's
just
right,
sort
he
of
pointed
to the bedroom. So the paramedics went into the bedroom and they've tended to the wife who was having a heart attack.
Yep.
But they couldn't get her to say anything except she was muttering and then she kept saying, Martin, Martin, Martin. And so they've kind of gone looking for the husband and he's not there and they've gone back in the room and she's holding something and they look down and it's the funeral notice from
his
him.
Yeah.
The husband had died like the month before.
That's so crazy.
And it was him in the photo. So they are completely like, let's get her out of here. So they get her in the ambulance, and while they're loading her in the ambulance, I think it was the
Paramedic.
Someone
was coming afterwards, like they called for backup.
They called for backup. Someone else had gone in and said, the husband's going to come. I think he's coming. He's just gone into the garage. He's told us he's coming.
Yeah.
And this is the other lot of paramedics are like, the husband's dead.
Yeah.
He died a month ago. And they all just looked at each other like, what? Like, but who called? Who called? And they said that the 911 lady said, it was a man's voice. He said his wife was in trouble. Yeah. So the whole, several people had seen and spoken to this guy.
Even to the point of saying that it was definitely from that landline.
It was from the landline in the house.
Proper crazy.
And he saved her. She would have died.
Yep.
So there you go. How cool is that? So watch that show.
Yeah,
if you like this stuff, it's really good. It is. It's a great show. Our last story for the evening comes from Will, who was the one who shared the delightful clown story.
Yeah, thanks, Will.
Thanks, Will. It's still haunting us. So I've thrown out all the children's teddies. We burnt them in a ritualistic fire. No, I haven't really. I'm not that mean. Anyway, so this one comes from Will. This was experienced in Yanchep.
Right.
So Will grew up where I grew up in the northern suburbs. So him and two mates went camping at Yanchep. We went to the Yanchep Inn, had a couple of bevies. We didn't know much about the area, but thought it would be a cool place to camp at the Ghost House in Yanchep. Just because. Let's do it.
It's got a great name.
It's free. Will's like me. He's a thrill seeker. He likes spooky.
Yeah.
If it's scary, he's there. So he packed us. I love this. So Will packed a swag and a sword.
Good. All the essentials for camping.
Trent brought a tent and Hans brought a pillow. So three big, like, Viking-sized dudes with one tent, one swag, one pillow, and a sword to go camp.
Fantastic.
So at about 2 a.m, they stumbled across the ghost house, having left the inn at about 8 p.m. How many beers had you had?
Yeah.
It's a long walk. Trent ran through the ghost house because he just wanted to, and it was dilapidated and open, and then he came back to the other boys. We've been told that next to the ghost house there would be cabins for sleeping in. They'd looked everywhere, so all 3 boys decided to do like a route march. You know, you go this way, you go that way. We'll walk around it, we'll find it. We've got to find it. They looked everywhere and couldn't find it. All 3 had searched the perimeter. No buildings at all, except for this dilapidated ghost house. It's apparently supposed to be directly next to the ghost house. As the story goes, the ghost house is haunted by a lady. See, they didn't know any of this yet. All they knew was there was a place called the Ghost House in Yanchep, and they wanted to go.
Yep.
So as they were walking around looking for this building, there's no roads, no highways, nothing at all. All of a sudden, they hear a piano play out in the middle of nowhere, just a few bars. So like, bling, bling, like loud as anything. All 3 of them stopped. All 3 of them heard it.
Yep.
They looked at each other and freaked out a little bit. And they kept walking and decided they couldn't find the campground. They just pitched the tent and start a fire next to the ghost house and just sleep there. Because by this stage, it's like the wee small hours. The sun was going to be up soon. So all 3 of them jumped into the bed, sharing the blanket and the pillow. 3 dudes all squished up together. When they woke up in the morning, no more than 30 metres in front of them was the building. They couldn't see it at all. How weird is that?
Yeah, it's funny.
So they went back to the Yanchep Inn and they asked about it. And then they read that the house is haunted by the ghost of a woman. And apparently her husband, this is back before roads, before anything, so it's very isolated. So apparently what had happened is the husband left one day and never came back.
Right.
He found out later that if you hear a violin or a piano playing, like random with no source, it's the folklore is it's a spirit of a woman with a broken heart.
Oh. Oh, that's a sad story.
It's really sad. So that's what they heard. So they didn't know the history.
Yeah.
And all 3 of them heard this piano and then have found out like the literature in the inn when they read it. They're like, oh, we heard it.
Yeah.
Because they had gone there not knowing what the hell it was. So that's that's a bit of a lighter, pretty funny,
Good one.
pretty funny story.
That's a horrific story. That's camping when you're a young fella,
That's
isn't
when
it?
you're a young lad. What have you got? I've got a flick knife. Perfect. Bring it. I've got some Hubba Bubba. Sweet.
Sword, pillow, tent, swag.
I found a bottle of schnapps in the back of the cupboard from 1992. Christmas 99. Bring it. Yeah. Thanks, Will. That one's a bloody ripper.
Good one.
And to round up the episode, as we started with one from the hills where I was born. From the hills where I was born. I was reading about. I remember my mum telling me growing up the Kalamunda Hotel was haunted.
Yeah.
And I think that's where her wedding reception was.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They got married in Stirk Park.
Ooh, nice.
Wedding reception in Kalamunda Hotel.
There you go.
So apparently the Kalamunda Hotel is haunted by the ghost of a young lady. She was seduced and then became pregnant. And when she found out, she was too ashamed to deal with it, so she killed herself in room 24. Apparently. That's so the story goes. So people have seen guests that stay in room 24 leave in the night.
Okay.
Because they say that there's chills, strange lights have been seen. Some women have seen her.
Yeah.
Other people have said they've seen a girl jumping from the balcony,
Whoa.
like an apparition.
Yeah.
So she's a young blonde woman, and she's also like will take items and move them and makes very strange noises, like "Yick-a-doo." No, not really. Not really, but that would be so funny.
Sounds better.
In the middle of the night, "Yick-a-doo." I'm guessing it's more like.
It's the stereotypical one.
moaning and crying, and sorry, I've wrecked the spookiness of that story completely. No. So there's also reports of a male ghost in the actual bar, of course, in the bar, and in the hotel itself. People.
What's that supposed to mean? He's
Well,
a drunk.
No, he's just smart. He's gone. She's up weeping over some dumb guy. She should be down in the pub. Hopefully she takes a leaf out of the bloke's book and joins him in the bar, and maybe they could drown their sorrows together and move on to the light. Yeah, so that's another little cool one. And that winds up episode 7.
Another one down.
Another one down.
Well
I
done.
hope you've enjoyed this episode. It's a bit higgledy-piggledy, but that's my style.
It's good.
It's organised, but it's kind of a bit of everything. Eclectic.
It's lovely.
And if you've enjoying the episodes and you want to keep them coming, please let me know. Like and share them with anyone you think would get a kick out of it. Would get a kick out of Monks and Vin Diesel. And yeah, thanks again for your messages and your support.
And please send in stories.
Send in your stories. I just love reading your stories.
Great.
They're really good.
Yeah.
And it's painting a really cool picture of our awesome little state that we've got. Well, not little. It's the biggest one over there. We're not little. We're big. So thanks again. This is Morgan.
And Jimmy.
Saying good night yet again. Stay creepy. Bye.
Bye.